I'm Martin. Welcome aboard sailing vessel Genevieve. Genevieve is a Hylas 54 sailboat, and I am sailing across the Atlantic. The journey is split into two sections. First from New York to the Azores, and I'm doing that single-handedly, solo. And then in the Azores, I'm meeting two of my friends, Mike and Neil, and we're going to sail from Horta to Falmouth, the UK, to the United Kingdom. So two-part journey. Usually when I do my sailing trips, I try and make some kind of little video. Usually it's a very short video set to music. I just use a GoPro template. But this time I decided to make it a little different. I was going to do a bit more of a narrative. I was trying to satisfy a whole bunch of different end users, friends and family who want to know what it's like to sail across the Atlantic. Maybe there's people who want to live vicariously. Maybe there's people who have done this many times and want to compare notes and laugh at me. But really the reason I'm doing this is for myself. I wanted to document some of the highs and lows of the trip and just remind myself what it was like sailing. So I'm going to do a boat tour at the end, so you get to see Genevieve in a little more detail, both below and above decks. And I'm going to talk to you as we go about things that happen, hopefully good things, but also the bad things. And you know, take it or leave it. If you want to skip through the video, please do. If you want to ignore it, if you want to watch it from end to end, it's up to you. But anyway, welcome aboard Genevieve. Let's go. Wow, this is the North Atlantic Ocean. Here are the Azores. Here's New York. There's Falmouth, where we're eventually heading to. So I'm going to be leaving Block Island right at the end of Long Island here. The shortest distance between Block Island and the Azores is actually a curve that will go something like that. Now it's a curve because this is a Mercator projection. I won't go into details, but on a great circle chart it would be a straight line, but it actually heads out past New England, goes north very close to Newfoundland, but I do not want to go up there because you see this red line here. This is the southern limit of ice, and I don't want to get anywhere near A, ice, and B, the cold up there. So I'm going to actually cut down southeast when I leave Block Island. I want to get off the continental shelf as quickly as possible because there'll be lots of traffic, lots of fishing boats, lots of crab pots and fish pots on the continental shelf. It's about 100 miles till you get to the deep ocean. So I'm going to do the quickest route. Instead of going out across the Newfoundland banks, the Georgia banks rather, I'm going to cut down into the deep ocean and then keep heading southeast until the weather is appropriate for me to make a beeline to the Azores. So that's the intended route. Well, it's Thursday morning and it's a beautiful calm day here in Block Island, but I have a bit of a conundrum. Originally I was planning on leaving today, but there's a low coming through Saturday, Sunday, which very unsettled weather. However, the weather after that is equally as unsettled, but as always with sailing, you kind of have to just do what you think. So I think I might be leaving very soon. I have to top up with diesel while the wind is calm here and get out of here maybe, or stay. I'm working on it. I'm going over to the gas dock in Block Island. I think I'm leaving. Just check that I've got some power. Goodbye United States. Well, till I get to the gas dock in about 2 minutes. How do I feel? I feel a little like jittery at the moment. Shut up. I feel a little jittery, like a little nervous. I don't really know why. If I think it through logically, there's no reason. Sort of like it was busy leaving because I had to go and get diesel and fill up with water, and doing that on your own is always a little tricky. But the only real logic about being a little trepidatious is the uncertainty of the weather. But I'm going to get a forecast by satellite phone, a detailed forecast from the Marine Weather Center. And if it looks really bad, I'll just turn around and come back. But I didn't want to hang around waiting for that. I don't know if you can see out there, but it looks like I have a big fog bank coming. So get the lights and the horn ready, and the radar, and AIS. Well, the weird thing is, I've changed the ship's time, the clocks I go with, to UTC or Greenwich Mean Time, which over here, beginning of the trip, means that it doesn't get dark until just gone midnight, and it doesn't get light until 9 o'clock in the morning, UTC. Which is a bit weird, but it feels like tea time, so I'm having tea. Hey kids, seems like it's dolphin time. There's a huge school of dolphin, and they're coming over to see me. Wow. Well, sun's going down. First day I've had fog, dolphins, whales, seen about 5 sharks lazily swimming by. And now I have you see that? The oasis of the seas crossing by. I haven't seen much else out here. But the moon's out, nearly a full moon. It's going to be a lovely night. But oh, good morning, shipmates. Day 2 has dawned. Didn't get light until 9 AM UTC time, which is Greenwich Mean Time, which is what I'm using the ship's time. But after motoring for pretty much 20 hours, a nice breeze has come up, about 14 knots, and I unrolled the brand new North Sails Genoa. I think the luff needs tightening up a little bit, but she's looking good, and we are making about 6 knots, 6.5 knots at the moment. Not quite going in the right direction, a bit more south than I would like, but can't be helped. We'll wait and see if the wind changes. Anyway, it's a beautiful day, it's warming up, time for coffee. I'll put the kettle on and get out of these clothes, it's getting warm. One of those is enough. Pour it in without burning yourself. Whoa, whoops, or spilling it. So I have a little problem. The staysail furler, I think it has too many turns on it, and they've jammed. I went to roll it up and it won't roll up, so I'm gonna, it's a little rough, but I'm gonna go out there and kind of pull all of the line off and try and get it unjammed. I've got the engine ticking over and the Genoa's in. I've reefed the mainsail, so we're just kind of jogging along about 2 knots. It's not too rough yet, but anyway, you can come with me. Well, things have picked up a bit. I'm crossing the Gulf Stream. The wind is against the current here a little bit. It's kind of oblique. So the waves are quite big, and it's about 25 knots of wind consistently. Anyway, things are exciting, but at least it's daylight and the sun's out, so it makes things look nice. Well, it's day 4. It's about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I've come a long way south, and I just turned east, which is the direction I really want to go in. And I'm waiting basically for the wind to fill in for a broad reach or a run eastward. But at the moment all I have is a big swell and not much wind, so the boat's rolling around. I have the engine on, but the boat's rolling around, the mainsail's slatting. I don't have the Genoa up because it just flops around because of the swells. The wind's not strong enough to keep the sails full, so as soon as the swell knocks you one way, the sail flops backwards and forwards. It's the most annoying thing. So it's a little frustrating at the moment because I'm not really moving, but I'm hoping the wind's going to fill in. It's raining, grey, and sails flopping around. Whatever. I've got 35, 34 knot gusts at the moment. I've just put the staysail and about half reef main up, and we're jogging along. There's a lot of big waves, so it keeps slowing us down. But at least the engine's not on. So I'm having a bit of a mid-Atlantic rave. Got my sound speakers blasting. Got vegetable lentil spicy soup in my cup and on my trousers. Not a good look. Good morning, day 6. I'm still on my eastward leg, I'm calling it, which is the biggest leg. Yesterday I spent quite a long time putting the pole out, so the wind's directly behind me, so I have a poled out Genoa, the second reef. It's a little frustrating because even though I've been making good speed through the water, probably about 7 knots, 8 knots, I have a current against me again of about a knot and a half. So even though I feel like I'm zipping along, it's rather depressing that the speed over the ground is slow. Anyway, I spent the night with just this. I'm now going to put the mainsail out wing on wing. But it's a little, there's some squalls expected, but they're not going to be really crazy squalls, so I'm not going to put the whole mainsail up. I'm going to refit, and then if a squall comes I can just roll up the Genoa a bit, or totally. That should be fine. Anyway, first job is to put the preventer out forward so that I can keep the boom out. So I'm going to take the preventer line and attach it way up the cleat up front. Want to see where we are? That's us there, that boat. Zooming in. That's Genevieve. That's another ship that's about 30 miles away. Apart from that, we are alone. We happen to be in one of the deepest parts of the Atlantic Ocean. Morning, day 7. Been wing on wing all night, making good speed. And look, there's a ship. It's called the cargo vessel Hansen, and he came from behind, overtook me, made a slight change in course I saw on the screen, so he obviously knows I'm here. If he got any closer, he was coming any closer. He's about 2 miles away now. got any closer, I'd call him up and just make sure he knows I'm here, but I'm sure he has eyeballs on me. Anyway, it's a lovely day. Looks like the forecast suggests the wind is going to stay like this for a while. Making good progress directly towards the Azores. Laters. So it's noon, day 7, and at noon every day I send a ping to John and Rick from my main shore minders, basically sending them a satellite pin of where I am on the satellite phone. Well, welcome to my office. This is the chart table, the technological hub of Genevieve. This is the electrical panel, the AC panel and the DC panel. This is all the things that run off batteries, the batteries on the boat, and this is the things, the AC stuff. So you can only run this stuff when you're plugged into shore power, or you are running the generator. These things like the washer, the dryer, the water heater, the ice maker, the water maker, all kinds of things like that. The exception is that you can run the outlets in the galley and the rest of the boat. That's the 120 volt outlets, and the microwave oven. You can run those from an inverter. So you can run those when you're on battery power only. But the rest of the stuff, the lights, pumps, electronics, the fridge, the freezer, all run off DC, off the batteries. This is my SSB radio, which I do never use. It's kind of been replaced by the satellite phone, which is right here. This is my VHF radio, and this is one of the multifunction displays for my Raymarine system. So this has so much. Has the radar, has a chart plotter. This is how I know where I am. That's that ship that we just saw. There's another one over there, but that's that distance. That's about 4 miles now, so it's nowhere near to me really. I usually have it set on about 2. That's 2 miles. That little dish there. So this is probably 6 miles, and that whole thing is maybe 20 miles. I'm looking at. Anyway, you can do all kinds of things. I won't go into that. This is my music system. I'm playing Madonna at the moment, of course. And so yeah, that's kind of it. This is where all the work is done. The other thing that I'm pretty diligent about is also keeping a log. I don't do it. You're supposed to do it, every couple of hours. I do it like maybe 4 or 5 times a day. But basically write down my position, the direction that I'm supposed to be going, the direction I'm actually going in, speed over ground, speed through the water, state of the sea, the ocean, the log, how the wind is, I do track the water temperature, because it was useful when I was crossing the Gulf Stream, because you can use the water temperature to tell when you're in the stream and when you aren't. And then I write down what sails I have out, whether I'm using the motor, what the revs are, and then my favorite bit, where you can write down just little remarks. So I write down things that I think are of interest or important, but I also write down, what I had for breakfast, how I'm feeling. Here it says ships, 2 on the horizon. Now time to concentrate on the generator. I have a bit of generator issue. I have to get it to start. I don't think it's going to be a big deal, but that's what I'm going to do now. Good morning. It is day 8. I think it's Thursday. Had a bit of a long night. Still sailing pretty fast, doing 9.3 knots at the moment. Though the wave, I'm kind of surfing up and down the wave, so it goes from like 9 down to 7, back up to 9 as the waves kind of pick you up and surf down them. But anyway, I was wing on wing for 3 days, which was great. But last night the wind backed a little bit and is now kind of southwest. So in the night I kind of took the Genoa in, put it out the other side. So now I'm on a broad reach, but I left the pole out, so I'm not sure. The wind might go back to west and I can go back to wing on wing, so I left the pole out. So we look a bit odd at the moment in that we're sailing on a broad reach on a starboard tack, but I have the pole out to starboard. So if I was sailing in the Solent right now, I'd be embarrassed, but no one's going to see me, so I'll just leave the pole. It's a bit rolly and rough to take the pole down, and I don't want to be in a position of then the wind veering again back to the west and having to put the pole out again, because it's a lot of effort. So I'm going to wait for the forecast. I'm getting another forecast today. I'm going to wait for the forecast and see if it predicts where the wind's coming from. And if it's not going to be back from the west again, I'm going to take the pole down and stow it away. You know what? I think it's time for halfway cleanup. Let's go. Well, it's day 9. It's kind of woke up and it's kind of rainy, grey, but the best thing about it is I'm on a beam reach. I'm doing 9 knots through the water and 10 knots over the ground. So that's the first time that I've had a current pushing me in the right direction rather than slowing me down. So I love it. Even though the sun's not out, it's a lovely day. See this is very useful. This is just an old iPad. It's like ancient, it's like at least 3 years old. I have it stripped down, there's really nothing on it, no software. I just have a few sailing things on it, but what I use it for is I have this bracket that you can clamp it anywhere on a thing. So what I do is I have it mirror the multifunction displays, and then if I go down to sleep somewhere or I'm up here on the front of the cockpit, I can just have this like right in front of me, so I can see the navigation information, all of the wind information. And you cannot operate the boat from it, although there is a program you could do that. I prefer not to do that, but it just is kind of a multifunction display that you can take around with you, and then wherever you settle you can see all of the vital information for the boat. And this bracket is fantastic. It's just a stretchy bracket that holds the iPad, and you can clamp it onto any rail. Top tip. Another top tip while I'm at it is bean bags. Bean bags, they are a pain in the neck to store, because they're like having a giant floating cloud in your life that you need somewhere to put it. But they are super comfortable. Not only are they great for sitting on deck when the weather's good, but when it's rough like this, you can put them, or even put 2 of them together and sit in them, and they kind of hold you in place. And I've been sleeping down here just like this, actually, just like this, in my bean bag. I tell you, if they had invented bean bags in the 16th century, sailors would never have invented hammocks, because bean bags, I think, are better. And I've been kind of hanging out down here when it's rough and rolly. I just sit in my bean bag with my laptop. Life is good. Top tip, bean bag. So this is what happens when you're at sea and you forgot to. All of these locks, they lock like that. So normally you can just leave them, but when you're at sea, you have to push them in to lock them. And if you forget, everything comes clattering out like these insulated stainless steel bowls. Which, another top tip, are amazing. These things keep your food warm, and they have a lid that goes on them. So if you're, especially at sea, you can serve food in these and it stays warm. So the way I get weather is I have two main sources of weather. I get emails. I can get emails through satellite phone. I get weather reports from the Marine Weather Center, which is based in Florida, and every couple of days they will send me a customized weather report in text only, so it's low, it's not a lot of data to download it. And they basically tell me what the weather's doing on my route, and then they have routing suggestions. If you need to change course due to bad weather, they'll suggest things. Very useful service to have. They know exactly what they're doing. The other way to get weather is through the satellite phone. I can download these grid files. So this is, I've downloaded this grid. This is the United States, and the Azores are out over there. But I downloaded this grid, and then you can play it. You can see what the wind's doing. These little barbs show the wind direction and strength, and you can download current, waves, rain, all kinds of things. Well, things got a little spicy. I was seeing close to 30 knots of wind, and we're on a pretty much a close reach, and I just kind of felt like we were doing 9-10 knots. Just felt like the boat was straining, so I came out and I took another reef in the big reef in the Genoa, and took some of the mainsail in. And as always happens when you think that, you do the reefs, the boat stands upright, feels much more kind of stable and comfortable, and yet you're still going the same speed. Well, morning shipmates, day 10. Had quite a night. We had some really strong wind yesterday, which was great. We were making some really good progress, and then the wind just kind of died, and it's moved around to behind us from the west, and the sail is like, we've got a swell, and so the sail's flopping around. It's enough to drive you completely crazy. Everything downstairs is rattling and banging. I mean, it was almost comical how everything was making a noise last night. Anyway, I'm just hoping that the wind increases just to fill the sail, so it stops doing that. If not, I'm going to have to pole it out again. And the staysail has also jammed itself again, so I have to go up and fix that. It's jammed halfway out. Halfway in, halfway out, so I'm a little kind of pissed off today. Can you tell? I didn't have any sleep, so it's just been so noisy and rolly and stuff. Anyway, as soon as the wind comes up, I'll be fine. So a lot of people ask me, you know, what I did to get ready for this trip. In terms of the boat, you know, the boat was on the hard in Connecticut before we got her in the water and ready. So there was a whole bunch of things just that happen every time you de-winterize a boat, needs cleaning and some maintenance, standard maintenance done. But in terms of this trip, I kind of thought through the critical systems aboard. So to me, those are the sails, the rigging, the steering, and the autopilot. So there's a lot of other important things like, you know, the engine, the generator, all of those. But, you know, if the engine goes down, you know, that's not great at all. But you can sail without an engine. The generator would be inconvenient because I wouldn't be able to microwave my baked potato, but or the ice machine wouldn't work. But it's not critical. So we really concentrated on some of those things. So in terms of the sails, we decided to have a new Genoa. The old Genoa was original from 2007 when the boat was launched, and I just knew that it was getting to the end of its life. We'd had a new mainsail a couple of years ago from North Sails. Peter Grimm at North Sails made us fantastic new main, and so I asked him to make us a new Genoa, 130% Norlam Genoa, and it arrived in the winter, and we just put it on just before we left, and it's amazing. It's a great sail. I love it. It sets, no matter how much it's reefed, it sets perfectly and it looks great. So I'm glad I did that because the Genoa gets a lot of stress. The steering, I did a thorough steering check. We have a Mamba Whitlock steering system, which is a solid rod steering system through kind of a rack and pinion process. It's super strong, but I did go through and do a thorough check, make sure all the bolts were tight, everything was greased, there was no wiggle in any of the system. But most importantly, the autopilot drive motor, there was nothing wrong with that, but that is an essential piece of kit especially for someone sailing solo. And so I bought a new drive motor. It's quite an investment, but decided that that would be a good thing to do. So I installed a new motor drive and then kept the old one. As I said, there was nothing apparently wrong with that. I kept that one as a spare. The essential piece of equipment on this boat anyway is the Genoa furler. That's the drum that rolls up the Genoa, and it's put under quite a bit of stress. There was nothing wrong with the old one again, but I decided that it was probably prudent to get a new one. So we got a new Genoa furler, and along with that we got a new headstay, a very beefy headstay. Now we've had a new rig on this boat in 2019, so the rig, the running and standing rigging is all relatively new, but I thought that the furler was not replaced in 2019. So I had the staysail furler thoroughly pulled apart and maintained, and then got a new Genoa furler, and a completely top to bottom thorough rig check from a professional rigger. They couldn't find anything else that they thought needed attention, which was good news. So a lot of people ask me where I sleep, where I hang out, and my absolutely favorite place to sleep is in the cockpit when I'm on my own. The thing is, it's not that comfortable up there all the time because, you know, if it's wet and it gets cold and the benches are not particularly comfortable, and sometimes you just need a break from the noise of the wind and the splash and all of that. So my actually favorite place to sleep is actually down here. I come down here with a bean bag, and I sit in my bean bag. It holds me tight. I can brace my feet against the table here, and I also can have a direct line of sight to the instruments over there. So I pretty much, and I'm close enough to the companionway where I can kind of get a sense of what's going on outside. So when I'm not upstairs, I'm down here. I did try sleeping up front or going back into you know, what is normally our bedroom back there, but I just feel too disconnected from the boat, really. It feels, I can't hear what's going on and all of that. So I've been hanging out right here. I've been watching movies, sleeping here. This is my space. So you might be wondering what I do all day sailing along. Well, actually, that's what I do. I sail, so there is quite a bit of work to do just to keep track of the boat, adjust the sails, keep her moving in the right direction as efficiently as possible without overstressing her. And then, you know, there's been some maintenance things, some things that have broken that I've had to fix. The furler got jammed up twice. I went out and fixed that. So one of the pumps went wrong. The generator stopped working through my own fault. So there's some things like that. You know, I have a clean up, and then in terms of kind of leisure things, I have lots of books. I have lots of books on tape. I have lots of videos. I'm watching Harry Potter from 1 to 7. I'm at number 5. I've got more media than I'll get through. I do other things like make stupid videos. I have emails. It's been nice to hear from a lot of people as I've been on the way, so I answer my emails. And yeah, that's kind of what I do. I cook, but I haven't been cooking anything too fancy because we've been running downwind for the week or so. It's very comfortable, but the boat rolls from side to side, and trying to make dinner is a recipe for just making yourself angry, because undoubtedly something rolls onto the floor, make a mess. It's just difficult to cook, so I haven't really been doing any cordon bleu. Anyway, it's kind of what I do. So here's a chart of the Azores. There's some islands up here, there's a bunch in the middle, and then these islands out here. And the original plan is I was going to head for Horta, which is where most transatlantic sailors go. But I'm actually not going to do that now. I've decided that I'm going to sail past these islands, São Jorge, or George, I don't know how you say that, Pico and Falial, and I'm going to continue on to São Miguel, because that is where John's going to fly into. I'm going to meet him there, and then we're going to, once we've explored this island, we're going to cruise up through these islands and visit these, and then end up in Horta where he's flying out of, and that's where I'm going to meet Mike and Neil. So we're doing a kind of a cruise, but I'm going to bypass the whole thing. So it's going to be frustrating because probably on Wednesday or Thursday I'm going to see Pico in the distance, but I'm going to spend another day or a day and a half sailing past all of that to get down here. Anyway, that's the plan. Good morning. It is 13th of June, Tuesday, day 13 of the trip, and I had a good night, still keeping really good speed. I should have another 200-mile day today, noon to noon, kind of the third in a row. The other two, the previous two were just short of that. Anyway, it was good night. I actually had a really good sleep today, so I'm feeling top of the world. Yesterday I was down below fiddling with video editing, and a huge squall came through that caught me completely unawares. It was went up to like 48 knots, and I had too much sail up really, and it was a little scary, but there's nothing I could do about it at the time. I just stayed down below, and you know, I was like, oh, hold on Genevieve, but she was fine. She went up to hull speed, and luckily it was pouring with rain, so the waves kind of flattened out. They flatten out when it's pouring with rain really hard. But it was a little scary, but everything was fine. I thought I'd talk to you about some of the safety things that we have on board. You see me in the video wearing this PFD, a personal flotation device. This is not like the kind of thing that you would wear in the Great South Bay while you were water skiing. This is an offshore jacket. This is made by a new model by Spinlock, and it has a number of important features. It has a safety harness attachment point, so you can use you can clip yourself on using a safety harness like this. Clip yourself onto strong points on the boat, but also we have jack lines running up the middle of the boat that in theory will stop you falling over in the first place. important feature of a life jacket like this is to have a hood. It has a hood inside of it, so you can prevent secondary drowning, which is basically drowning because the waves and spray don't let you get breath and you start choking, etc. So having a hood, it has a little light on a pylon, a strobe light that pops up and strobes. And very importantly, it has crotch straps that go underneath your legs so that the life jacket won't rise up and fall out of it. And also you can use this strap to haul someone out if the crotch straps are in place. They're a pain in the neck to have them in between your legs all the time, but very important to have. The other thing that I've added to this is an AIS man overboard beacon. So all of our life jackets have these beacons inside, and once the life jacket inflates, which it will do automatically when it hits the water, that AIS beacon sends out a signal the same way that a ship does on your multifunction display. You'll see it as a little man overboard system, so that any people on the boat know exactly where you are, and they can get the sails down, turn around, come and pick you up, and they know exactly where you are all the time. Because the big thing about going overboard is it's very easy to lose track of where someone is. In the panic and the kerfuffle and turning around, you just get disoriented. So other ships would also see that and would come and visit. Now the rather spurious rationale about me wearing this is that there's no one to come and rescue me. If I go over, all this is going to do most likely is to prolong my life, but I'll still be dead at the end of it. But I really wear it all the time because I rely on this clip-on section. But I also have a PLB, a personal locator beacon on the life jacket. If I set this off, it will send a satellite signal to an organization that monitors satellites throughout the whole world, and they will first identify or confirm that there is a possible emergency, and then they will dispatch help. So that would be the Coast Guard, but out here would probably be a nearby ship to come and pick me up. So in fact, having this on with a PLB attached does make sense for me, because there is a very good chance, especially because the water is relatively warm, that I could stay bobbing around, not exactly happy, but I would be in the water, and it's very likely that if this worked, the ship would come and pick me up. We also have, so on board we also have a 6-man offshore life raft that contains its own food, flares, emergency equipment. It's just been recertified and it sits in a locker at the stern of the boat. We also have a man overboard, John Boy man overboard system, which is a big kind of life ring with a pylon and a light on it that you throw into the water. It auto-inflates, and the idea being that the man overboard can then swim to it, get in it hopefully, and be out the water a little bit. And the pylon on it also means you can attach a halyard to it if you come alongside and haul it out. We also have a horseshoe buoy, which is a kind of a life ring that is attached to 200 feet of floating line. So if you're close to someone, you can throw them that, they can get to it, and then you can haul them in towards the boat. And then we have another couple of throwable devices. That's it in terms of safety. If we were to have to abandon ship in the life raft, we would take this ditch bag with us. So it has things like you know, food and emergency blankets and water and things like that. But probably the most important thing in it is that this is an EPIRB. So this is a bigger version of the personal locator beacon. The EPIRB will do the same thing. Once activated, it will send a satellite signal. No matter where you are in the world, the organization that administers that will check that there is indeed a potential emergency taking place by contacting your shore minders, the people who you've registered with this, and they will send assistance. So if this works, and if the PLB work, and you're in the life raft, the likelihood is that rescue will come within, you know, hours or you know, 24 hours at the outside. So the idea of having, you know, a lot of food and water and all of that in your ditch bag, it's a good idea to have it, but the reality is that you're going to get rescued sooner rather than later if you have this stuff. We also have a couple of handheld VHF radios in here. I have a little GPS navigation device that's powered by its own batteries that sits in here as well. I also put the passports in here because, you know, it's bad enough having to be abandoned ship and be rescued, but then causing a diplomatic, you know, kerfuffle because you don't have your passport is another thing. And I put things like eyeglasses, sun hats, sunglasses in here as well. But the most important part of it probably is that. Anyway, all of this stuff, great to have. You know, it's a bit of a pain in the neck to keep it all current and registered and charged and all of that, but it's one of those things that you need to have and hopefully never need to use. There you are. Another thing about you know, safety, well, on that topic, you know, when I'm out here and the conditions are, you know, a little less than benign the way they are now, I always just clip on with the thing. It's clipped onto a pad eye in the cockpit here, and I just clip that on because I think around day 4 the conditions were like this, like it was kind of a little boisterous but not out of control, and I happened to be down below, and luckily the doors here were closed and these little ports were all closed, and I was doing something, and all of a sudden a wave hit the side of Genevieve and dumped itself into the cockpit here, and water came pouring through the doors down below. And when I came up, all of these coils of rope around the coils of rope that we store around the winches, they were all off. These cushions were all piled in the middle of the floor, and it was kind of a mess out here. And I'm thinking, wow, that was unexpected. And I don't think if I'd been up here, I don't think it would have washed me overboard. I don't think it was quite that big. But a wave maybe a third bigger might have done, and it was completely unexpected. It wasn't like there were other waves even making the cockpit wet. This was just a kind of a one-off wave that just hit the boat right and dumped, you know, huge amounts of water into the cockpit. So it made me realize that you know, there's these outlying events that happen that you never really expect, and that is why I clip on consistently when the weather is anything but kind of benign. Well, it's day 15, and theoretically I should be able to see Pico as I go past it, but I see nothing. It's a little hazy today. I started to get here on the VHF chatter in Portuguese, but it looks like I have about 24 hours to go, so this time tomorrow I should be there in San Miguel. I've been up all morning. I've been cleaning up the boat and straightening things up, and I just realized, I mean literally I've been up about 5 hours now, I just realized I've got my shorts on inside out. Strange. So when you go into a country, you not only do you fly your own ensign from the back of the boat, but when you enter a country you fly this. This is the Q flag. Q flag, quarantine flag. It means that either you have pestilence on board, or it means you are requesting customs and immigration clearance. Once you've received customs and immigration clearance, you replace the Q flag with the country's, it's called a courtesy flag. So you fly it from the starboard spreader, and I bought a package of all European flags. So custom is here to fly not only the Azorian flag, but underneath that the Portuguese flag. So I'm gonna sort those out and put them up on the on the starboard spreader. Well, day 16, June 16th has dawned, and according to the chart I'm close to land, but I haven't seen any land. I think I might be lost at sea. What you say? What? Where? Oh, look at that! Land ho! Land ho! Oh, thanks for your help. I see it now. Nearly there. Well, I have arrived. I'm in Ponta Delgada Marina in San Miguel, and I meant to take a video when I was coming in, but you know, there's a lot going on and I didn't. But anyway, I'm here. I arrived at 12:30 UTC time, and I'm very happy. Update later. So it's done. I am here in Ponta Delgada, San Miguel in the Azores, and it's Friday evening. I've checked in at the customs. I've checked in at the marina. I've checked in at immigration. I am legally in the Azores. So I just wanted to kind of recap on what it's already. The whole trip is kind of blended into this indistinguishable period, but. Yeah, I kind of think that the trip, if I have to recap, it's the challenge of the 4 Ps. The first P was planning. So, it is a lot of work to plan the trip, to firstly get the boat ready so everything is done that needs to be done on time. So it's whether we're doing the work ourselves or other people are doing work on the boat. It is a planning process that is not insignificant. Also, just planning. We put together a passage plan that details that we gather information about tides and currents and weather and customs and immigration, and put that all together in a planning document. So a passage plan. That's quite a task in itself. The second P is I would call practical. So just getting the boat running and keeping it running is not insignificant. I did have these obsessions when I first left about, first of all, because I was motoring for 24 hours, I was obsessed about my fuel usage, whether I was going to run out of diesel and be stuck in the middle of the Atlantic for days or weeks. And then, when the furlough went wrong, I was obsessed about that. But I do know the boat pretty well, and most things that go wrong with it, I understand how to fix them. Whether I can fix them or not is another issue, but nothing really bad happened. But the practical aspects of sailing a long trip like this shouldn't be underestimated. The third P, psychological. The psychological challenge is not insignificant. I think some people would respond to being on their own for 16 days better than others. I generally do not do well on my own. Like if John's away when I'm at home, I don't really like it, don't do that well. But on the boat, I kind of felt I wasn't really alone. I was with Genevieve, so I was fine. And I didn't feel lonely. I just was on my own. So lonely, but I was on my own, but not lonely. And I am completely happy. I talk to myself all the time. Oh my God. I would not only talk to the video, but I would have conversations, arguments. I would do all kinds of yakking on to myself for like hours on end. And I mean, I'm a really good listener, but the other guy, yeah, Jesus. Anyway, the fourth P, persistence. It is a long way and it's a long time, and I kind of underestimated how long. Well, it actually took me a little longer than I thought. I thought it was going to be 12 to 14 days. It ended up being 16 days. But it is a long time, and the nights are really long, and it's night after night. You're like, oh my God, how much longer is this going to be? And I tried not to focus on the arrival, the end point of the trip. I tried just to focus on the trip, as it was, and not focus on the end. But when you get to like 4 or 5 days out, it's really hard not to focus on arrival and getting there. But now I'm here. I'm like, oh, it wasn't that bad. So anyway, I have lots of questions. People were asking me questions all the time, like how much did I sleep? So I would say that I slept on average about 5 hours a day, not in one chunk, but I would sleep for about 5 hours a day, mainly at night, but then I would nap for another couple of hours. I wouldn't say I was asleep, but I was definitely like chilling out. But I definitely slept less than I would do when I was on land, but I didn't feel that tired. I mean, there were a couple of occasions around day 10 where I was really run ragged because the boat was crashing around and I was screaming and shouting at every plate and cup and baked bean can that was smashing around and making a noise, and I was really at the end of my, my last nerve. But it was fine. And what did I eat? So it was too rough, it was too rolly to really cook anything. So I kind of I did have these kind of boil in the bag curry things that were really good that I got from this Indian grocery in Hicksville. And I would have breakfast, I would usually have granola and yogurt. For dinner I would usually either have a curry or a salad or something like that. Lunch I would do a sandwich or my favorite was like a can of tuna fish with cornichon and a bit of hummus on it, maybe. The waves, people asked me how big the waves were. I think I saw probably 15 to 20 foot waves, but waves out in the ocean are not the same as the waves you see at the beach. If you saw a 20-foot wave at the beach, that would be a big wave and it would cause some damage. But out in the ocean, they're not breaking, they don't curl over and break. They can do in storm conditions, but not until you get into serious weather. So the waves are big, but the boat just picks herself up and rides over them, and she's completely fine. And the waves are not an issue. I mean, especially because I was going downwind, they're going with you. They catch you up slowly, they go under the boat picks herself up, and it's fine. Wildlife. So I did see I saw dolphins nearly every day. They would not be interested during the day if I saw them, but it's come around 5:30, they'd be ready to play, and they would come bombing in from the distance. They jump out the water because I'm sure they know what the boat looks like underneath from their sonar senses, but they like to jump out the water and have a look at the sails and me waving, and they'd come and play, swim along with the boat. And they definitely respond to you. Like if you get up and wave and whistle at them, you can see they turn their whole body and look at you. So that was a really fun thing. And I never got tired of seeing the dolphins. The whales I only saw closer to New York, and they were at a distance and they just ignore you. They don't come and check you out, which is a good thing if you ask me, because I don't want a 20-ton mammal swimming alongside. I saw lots of seabirds. I'm embarrassed to say I don't know which ones, because I need to get a book on seabirds, but there were a lot of seabirds and jellyfish. So there were jellyfish, Portuguese man o' war jellyfish everywhere, billions of them. From New York all the way to the Azores, the ocean was filled with them. So so what else? Was I scared? No, I was never scared. Even in the 45-knot gusts and the big waves crossing the Gulf Stream, I was never scared. I was focused, and I knew that Genevieve was capable of dealing with a lot more than we saw, and so no, I wasn't scared. I'm not kind of a scaredy person, so I just was focused on what needed to be done and when. So ships. So I probably saw on average one ship a day, and most of the time I didn't even see the ship. I saw it on the AIS on my screen, and it would be like 20 miles away, and there were occasionally I would see them on the horizon, but they never got closer than maybe 3 or 4 miles. So that's one reason that I would sleep for periods, and there's really nothing out there. There's nothing to crash into. There's no one, there's nothing. You were really on your own. So yeah, no, there wasn't much traffic whatsoever. So anyway, you know, that's it. I'm here on Friday. I'm feeling kind of tired. I'm going to sleep well tonight, but I don't feel overly tired. Just glad that it's that I'm in the marina. I got a slip. There's a big race going on, so I was lucky to get this slip, but I was one of the last people to get into the marina. But yeah, I'm happy that it's done and I've achieved it, and that Genevieve is here in one piece. So there you are. Cheers. I'm going to have a gin and tonic, or another one.